Warren Shaw. We about to get into some game face some things.
So you saying that to say what?
I'm saying this only because you're hearing it.
No, you saying something. If you saying it, I'm hearing it because you saying it. What are you saying? Let it be said.
Cal Lee here, one half of the mighty Baseline NBA podcast. Be sure to check out my man Shaw at Shaw Sports NBA, or you can get at me at GameFace Lee. I want to speak on a article I just recently had an opportunity to read, contributed by Isaiah Thomas, former guard of the Boston Celtics, now with the Cleveland Cavaliers. If you haven't had an opportunity to check out the article that he released, it's available on the Players Tribune. So go to www.theplayerstribune.com. And it is a great read. Not only does he express his personal feelings about what has transpired with relation to this trade, but he also opens up a lot of doors for us to walk ourselves into, and hopefully our eyes a little bit more wide open about how we perceive and view today's modern day athlete, and how at times we put them on a pedestal so high, and we set such high expectations through our fandom that we don't realize at times that these guys are human. And he really opens up a range of thoughts, provocative thoughts about how we need to view these athletes and what goes through them personally when situations like these occur. Now, I'm not going to get into the semantics about how I feel about this trade. If you've listened to our show, I've basically have played the good Cal and the bad Cal about my perceptions about this trade. Wholeheartedly, my personal take is I didn't like this trade. It doesn't mean that I don't like Kyrie Irving. It doesn't mean that I have a problem with the Cavaliers. I have a problem with the Boston Celtics. I'm just looking at it from my personal objectivity as a person who has grown and who's grown up as a Boston Celtics fan. And when I say that so that people understand that when you read this article, there are aspects of this as to Isaiah Thomas, formerly as a player, and Isaiah Thomas, who now has to live with the fact that he must contribute for another basketball team. And it's very interesting that there's one paragraph that stands out in my mind, because a lot of excerpts have been released through the course of the day since this article is dropped, mainly about how Isaiah believes that, to this day, it still hurts and it will still hurt. But there's a paragraph that's after this that I find very interesting that won't be provided, or released. But if you read the article, you'll get where I'm coming from. And basically, it says, "It's not that I don't understand it. Of course I get it. This is a business. Danny is a businessman, and he made a business move. I don't agree with it, just personally, and I don't think the Boston Celtics got better by making this trade. But that's not my job. That's Danny's, and it's a tough job, and he's been really good at it. But at the end of the day, these deals just come down to one thing: business. So it's no hard feelings on that end. I'm a grown man, and I know what I got into when I joined this league. And so far, it's been more blessings than curses. I'm not sitting here writing this because I feel I was wronged. I wasn't wronged. It was Boston's right to trade me." I want you to let that paragraph sink in for a moment, because more than anything else, I'm going to say it for Isaiah Thomas. Isaiah, you were wronged. You want to know why you were wronged? Because when I think about the Boston Celtics have always been a unique franchise. In my time growing up, watching the Boston Celtics, we have been predicated on cultivating players, whether they are players that we've drafted or we've taken players from other teams who've somehow not found their way, who did not find their niche, who didn't find their calling card about what kind of player they were going to be like in the NBA. And somewhere during the course of their career as a Boston Celtic, it clicks. It happens for them. They become more than what they thought they were when they first wore that jersey. And there was a point where that was the staple of building a franchise-winning, a championship-winning Boston Celtic team. Now, you can throw in other these nuances, your modern-day free agencies and, the shelling out of all of this money and this wheeling and dealing that seems to happen now and that's all well and good. But for most teams that win championships, it is rooted in their identity of who they are. And by Danny Ainge doing this type of deal, it has obliterated all of what I have remembered and perceived in understanding what it was to be a Boston Celtic. Now, I'm not saying that I will never be a Boston Celtic fan. I'm just saying that sometimes the organization, and by that I mean people like Danny Ainge, do too much at the expense of trying to keep up with the trends that take place in the modern NBA. Sometimes it's just good being who you are. And who the Boston Celtics were is they took a player from the Phoenix Suns and Isaiah Thomas, who in his mind thought he was nothing more than a sixth man that's going to come off the bench and score. And the Celtics found a way to make him believe that he was a pillar of this franchise, to make him believe that he was the era beyond Paul Pierce, made him believe that he was one of the key pieces to moving the Celtics forward to possible championship appearances from 2015 and on. And somewhere along the line, that all changed. It didn't change because of the attitude of a basketball player. It didn't change because suddenly the market got so out of hand that the Boston Celtics had to frantically figure out what they wanted to do with Isaiah Thomas. It changed because of the mentality of the organization. It changed because of what the Golden State Warriors have done. Or maybe, let's keep it closer to home, what the Cleveland Cavaliers have. That's what changed. And I don't ever recall that the Boston Celtics ever dictated the way they went on to win championships simply because one team had LeBron James and they had money to throw around. And we suddenly forgot that as the Boston Celtics, we were rooted in the organic upbringing of putting together quality players that wanted to win. When you trade those assets away, they no longer become homegrown, they become assassins. And that is exactly what the Boston Celtics have now raised. In modern terms, they've raised the ultimate American assassin. Like the plug, I usually like to throw in some movie plugs myself. But he now understands that while he helped build something, he also now will be responsible for destroying it. I encourage everyone to read this article by Isaiah Thomas, because once again, there's no ill will that you will find in this article, but there will be a lot of insight. And more than anything else, it also lends to our understanding about why it's important to understand your franchise. Understand the teams that you root for and that you cheer for. Because so many times we get on the bandwagon and jump for joy when they make a move that we think is actually good and is for the benefit of the franchise moving forward. When in actuality, it actually could be to the detriment. And we need to call it out when we see it. Do I think that the Kyrie Irving deal will be a deal that will hurt the Boston Celtics? Probably not. The Celtics, I think, will still be a successful basketball team. But man, will I be thinking about what it could have been like doing it with a guy like Isaiah Thomas. And that takes nothing away from Kyrie Irving. It's just that the Isaiah Thomas story would have been a lot better in Jersey Green. To catch more of the Baseline NBA podcast, be sure to check us out each and every single week. Check out our Twitter handle at NBA Baseline for any upcoming news, events, and especially when we speak on great topics like these.